Hello, my name is Adam Bean and welcome to the 57th edition of AirHacks TV. It's the last edition in 2018. So the very first topic, what is bigger than my head here, is my new server. And I had a planned migration from my blog, all my Java EE stuff, from a new server which ran for 600 days non-stop. And it was, I think, in operations in total of, I would say, 3 years. And it was the second server running Docker. It was CentOS 7. And I was forced to upgrade everything because the German Telekom upgraded the line to digital IP DSL. So I had to change the router, and I would be offline anyway. So I just took the opportunity to upgrade the server. And I planned to have the smoothest migration in years because there was already, DevOps and Docker and everything. So I had two servers running in parallel, and I transferred all the Docker images from the old server to the new server. And then the Telekom came and said, you are upgraded, and they basically cut the line, and I was offline, and they asked me, okay, how I'm satisfied with the service. And I called them, say, okay, no, really. And they say, okay, now it's too late. Also, you are a business customer with a guaranteed response time. We will come sometime tomorrow, and I hope, tomorrow 8 a.m. or something, but they came later. But the technician, the engineer, was incredible. So it's like she solved the problem in I would say 5 minutes, and the problem was interesting. So they forgot to document the last change, so they connected me to a wrong cable, and I thought about that, and probably, I guess what they did is they documented this in Javadoc style. You know what I mean? In from enterprise projects, like this is a cable, this is a blue cable, this is a red cable, and forgot actually to write down for what the cable actually is, right? So, but now everything is online again. And the next problem was actually my fault. So you probably noticed that the blog was not very stable. And I also completely forgot to migrate the HTTP server. So there was actually no problem with Docker. This was funny. So there was all the Docker. I just transferred the images. There was Tommy, Whitefly, Payara, the three servers. Three types of servers in various versions. I transferred them from the old to the new, and they just booted, and everything went fine. And the HTTP server, I forgot the Linux security stuff, the SE manage, and my server is running outside it. My HTTP server is the only thing which runs outside the Docker container on my machine. And so I spent 2 hours to debug the problem, but because I completely forgot to do something. Also, it was documented, so I didn't read my own documentation. Now, back to the server. So the server is actually incredible. This is the best server I ever had, and this is in production right now, except this card, this is internal DSL router, is now external, so this is removed. As you can see, I have here the VNAND from Samsung Pro. 2 cards in RAID array. They are NVMe. The cooler here is Noctua with Noctua propeller here. And the board is actually a gamer board, but it supports NVMe booting and happens to be very robust. Then what you don't see here is the Dark Power Pro power supply, which is very efficient. And now, and the CPU is Xeon, the power efficient Xeon variant. And I have 64 gigabyte of RAM. This is below the cooler here, and that is basically max out. And the 64 gigabyte of RAM is a crucial memory. It was the fastest I was able to find, and it cost me 500 something euros, which is actually funny because some of my enterprise clients still try to save memory on RAM. It's just, of course, a lot of money, but not for a server. And what I will do in future, I will just record how fast the server starts. So all my containers, they start in about 2 to 3 seconds. And if I reboot the server, I think it is operational in 3 seconds, everything. So sometimes if I'm bored, I just go reboot and it starts in 3 seconds. So sometimes I will be 3 seconds offline. So then you will notice that I'm actually was too bored to fiddle with Docker Compose, and I just shut down -h now or reboot was faster. So this about the server. And what's also interesting, it is very, very quiet. So the old server was a little bit noisier, but this is quiet. So that's about hardware, but this is a almost holiday special. So I think is a good time to talk about that. Now, I'm after the AirHex, and it was the last week, 2 weeks ago, I spent some time on AirHex and at Munich airport. And the interesting part, so I did I spent 1 day with web standards, then 1 day we built PWAs, and then the last day we had Swing migrations or Swing and JavaFX migrations to web. And I thought it would be not very popular, but the Swing and JavaFX part was actually better attended than I thought. And there were a lot of Java developers with not, I would say, they just knew very well Swing and JavaFX or SWT. And if I showed them what you can do with, what we did, they showed me the applications, and we developed some ideas how to migrate them to web. And we did some prototypes. And the interesting part was, so everyone there said, this is actually incredible how easy to understand is the new web without any frameworks. And this was also interesting to me, because I sometimes think I'm the crazy who just develops web applications without frameworks. And but I'm not alone. Okay, and what we also have, we have already dates for 2019, and the first bunch of AirHex is going to be in April, and we will start with Java E8 and the news, or Jakarta E or Java E, however you call it, with microprofiles. I will combine both, because I always combine them in project. It does not make any sense for me to separate them. So I will show you what you can do with Java E8 combined with microprofile on servers like OpenLiberty, Payara, Whitefly, and Tommy. Then we effective Java E8 and testing. So we didn't have a lot of testing, I think, this year. So the next year it will be a testing workshop. I already got some requests about that. So this happens next year. And next week, the Java EE architecture workshop is already sold out. And there are a few seats, but there's almost no time to register. This next Monday. We spend some time with microservices and performance troubleshooting and monitoring. I'm really looking forward to this one. It's always fun. And at Munich Airport, we have a Christmas winter market, which is a very good food. So I already spent some time on it. So now to the questions. So first, I forgot something interesting as well to announce. So the last episode of the AirHex FM podcast is with Bruno Souza. This is the Java man, and this is the developer with the flag, Brazilian flag on Java 1. So I think one of the most famous developers. And we had a nice chat about how Bruno started programming Java, but even more interesting, what interests me was his take on Java open source, how it came to open source, what happened behind the scenes. So it was a really nice conversation. I really enjoyed that with Bruno. And by the way, I have say 3 to 4 episodes already in the queue, so they're already recorded. I only will have to find some time to edit them and publish them. Okay, so now back to questions. So, are you using any kind of CMS for your blog stuff? Of course, my blog runs for 12 years on Roller Weblogger, and I actually described the architecture in my book. This real world Java patterns. No, real world Java night hacks, and the blog is an Apache project called Roller Weblogger. I'm running the old version, and then I'm not running in Planet mode. Rather than I'm just have the blog, And what I thought about doing is like building my own block engine with Java 8 and just reusing the database. I already generating the, for instance, from the database, my archive page. So I know it somehow, and this is pretty simple structure. So I would migrate the data somewhere else or keep the data in the database, and probably just for fun will create my own block engine. It will be nice Java 8 example or Jakarta EE9 or whatever example. Okay. Now, Dempiler asked me, the old friend of the show, do you think we can make an architecture in abstraction of technology? We could make that, but I would rather focus on business logic. So yesterday I was in a architecture workshop with about microservices and Java EE, and so I spent some time with, I would say, Java EE beginners, and what they were amazed about is that in Java EE you are actually forced to focus on business logic, and you should not spend too much time on technology. And I took a look at the hexagonal architecture, and I think the hexagonal architecture assumes you don't have any framework, so like, or runtime, and you would like to build your stuff by yourself with, for instance, with plain Java SE. But with Java 8, for instance, so what hexagonal architecture is, basically you have domain logic as a core, and outside you have boundaries with protocol adapters, and these protocol adapters are exposing the domain logic via different protocols. And actually, we're doing this for years. So the boundary control entity architecture is very, very similar, but the main focus is on JAX-RS and JSON because, or sorry, HTTP and JSON, because everyone uses HTTP and JSON. So this is why we do this. And if you would have, let's say, WebSockets or something else on top of it, so the boundary would have some more classes. And so the hexagonal architecture talks a little bit interfaces and decorator pattern, but we actually don't need it in Java 8 because we put some annotations on my class and it's already exposed. By the way, I reviewed one of the projects in my classic boundary control entity architecture. I usually have two classes. One class cares about JAX-RS and the other one is the pure facade without any annotations. Now, in this particular project, what they managed to do is they showed me that they actually are able to implement the whole applications with a single boundary, so not just two classes, just single one. And this single boundary was really well testable. And this is actually a very good example where you can be actually leaner than the BC architecture, right? Okay. Do you think this kind of architecture can be used nowadays? It could, if you are not allowed, for instance, to use Java 8. If you have Java 8, you with microprofile, you are running already the architecture. What you should do then, just focus on, oh, but by the way, funny thing, in the hexagonal architecture, I read there were some examples in JavaScript, and they already mentioned data transfer object in JavaScript. So I think if we wait a little bit, we will get the first, JavaScript projects with DAOs, DTOs, interfaces not yet because they're not interfaces. So it would be really funny in the next 5 years, I would say. So do you think this kind of architecture can be used nowadays? Yes. If you are building platforms, of course. If you are running Java 8, you already have it. Okay. Now, friend of the show and asked me, do you plan to add Eclipse Glassfish to Docklens? Yes. I would like to do this, and I wanted actually already to do it, but I was busier with something more interesting. So there's the first announcement. What I actually did, and it runs already, I will also record a screencast. This is S2I image for Payara. And what S2I image means is this image is able to create an Payara image on the fly, and this Payara image, this S2I builder, source to image builder for OpenShift, is already based on my Docklens images, and this S2I builder, the input of this are wars, are JDBC drivers, is admin preboot with configuration files, and a build time configuration. And I prepared a thinware example, of course, where you can run the example and deploy it on OpenShift. And the idea is on Docker or OpenShift, what you usually will have to do is you have vanilla Payara, and you will have to inherit from the Payara and provide your data sources and so forth. And this particular problem or challenge is solved by the image. So it builds in 30 seconds always. So, but it can be reduced because I'm rebuilding the whole Payara over and over again. So I will optimize that for incremental builds, but then it should be really quick. And so Whitefly already has that. So now this is what I did before, and this can be absolutely used by Patrick because Patrick, where is the? Because Payara is patched Glassfish. Now, what's also interesting, what Patrick is running is a very interesting project. It's called Dataverse. If you take a look on it, this is they install worldwide a Dataverse, like open source research data repository software. So they have, my understanding is research papers with how to call it, deep linking or persistent linking, and this runs on Glassfish. So it's a very interesting Java EE project actually, so take a look on it. So it's another example of a great Java EE application. Okay, covered. And speaking of Docklands, what also happened is I had to upgrade some images. So I provided Java images, OpenJDK image, Java 8 S2I image. I also refresh the Open Liberty, for instance, Fusion image, also announcement. What is Open Liberty Fusion? The Open Liberty Fusion comes with an image, recent image for Open Liberty with Java 8 and microprofile at the same time. So because I needed it for my project. So I always use Java 8 and microprofile at the same time. It's a great combination, and this is, I think, the best one. And I also refreshed, going to refresh the Payara to the recent one. And yeah, so take a look at the Docklands. I have no time for announcements, but as you can see, it is really busy project. There are lots of Docker images here. Okay, now, next one. So Patrick, yes, I will do it. And take a look on S2I or on Payara images. Payara could be a great option. So I know you are running Glassfish right now. I think if you migrate to Payara, you won't regret it. So Payara is as open source as Glassfish, plus comes with community patches. Okay, now Suchwerk. So German name is like a search tool or search engine. Hi Adam. Some of my microservices depend on Apache POE. And Apache POE is a great library which you should not replicate. It just is able to read Excel and Word files. And it bloats the war to 18 megabyte, which is of course not acceptable. How in general do you build an application server Docker, including static dependencies, which could be also easily updated? And the answer was, which I closed right now, the S2I image would be just perfect. So put your POE to the X folder and you are actually done. And by the way, you can use the S2I images also outside of OpenShift. They will just build a Docker image and you can deploy the Docker image to stock Docker as well. Cool. Thank you. And by the way, Landshut, really nice city in the near of Munich. And I'm really curious what I'm doing in Landshut with Java EE Suchwerk. So if you can, ping me, and I was really curious about your Java EE projects. By the way, another interesting service is called HiveMQ. It's like MQTT JMS implementation, also comes from Landshut. So Landshut seems like be the Bavarian Valley, Silicon Valley. Okay. Dempiler, so Dempiler, this is the second time. So Dempiler never sleeps. After January 2019, we will have to pay for Oracle JDK 8, which is actually a good thing. I think Oracle spends a lot of time in developing JDK. So if you can, or if you have, nothing against paying Oracle, right? I see that Aaron Gupta and James Gosling are launching Amazon Corretto with a long-term support to 2023. Have you used OpenJDK in production environment? Yes, and it run smoothly. And by the way, as announced on Java 1, this JDK is going to be binary compatible with OpenJDK, so you can absolutely do it. And lots of my clients are running on OpenJDK in production. And on my newer server, I will also run on OpenJDK in production. Right now, I was too lazy to upgrade this JDK 1.8 to OpenJDK. I just transferred the containers over. Okay, now Skonks ask me, "Hi Adam, I was reading your post about managed executor service." So the post is important because the next question is how to test and mock it out. And my answer is you never should mock out the managed executor service. As you can see, this is not private, so you can instantiate that with new. Then you can mock out this with Mockito and then just invoke the method invoke periodically. I would only use Archelion or something similar if I wouldn't trust the server that it executes my managed executor service every 2 seconds. Exactly. So if you would like to measure whether the managed executor service runs properly every 2 seconds, then start it. Otherwise, you are probably only interested in this method, and then you can easily mock it out with Mockito. And take a look at Java EE testing course and javaeetesting.com. And this workshop also explains how to test Java EE applications. So it's called Java EE 7 testing. Actually, I should change the title to Java 8. There's not a big difference. Okay. Now back. This was easy. I would never use Weld Initiator, Archelion or something for test such a simple thing. Now, next question. As I can understand, inject does not use pooling versus EJB, which uses pooling. I couldn't replicate that. So in this Java EE testing course, I measured both, and EJBs were faster with at inject. I think it really also depends a little bit on the server, what the server is doing. And by the way, what you should do, search for Samolisov EJB versus CDI, and you will find something on GitHub. And here you will find the implementation or the performance comparison of Spring, EJB, and CDI, which is quite interesting. And yeah, I couldn't measure this. It depends on the server. And in my case on Payara, at inject was faster with EJBs than with CDI. It also, of course, depends on CDI implementation. Now, also interesting is Tovates ask me, as consistency of data across microservices is not handled by the relational database anymore, are you in favor of manually handling the consistency by adopting two-phase commit retries logic or adopting a tool that provides eventual consistency, such as an event sourcing, for example, Dependencies? So what is Dependencies? Dependencies is like a database poller which transforms database events, database changes to events, which is very similar to database triggers, update triggers, and it are exposed via different channels, for instance, Kafka. This is Dependencies. And Dependencies is a good idea. So it really depends what you are doing. If you have to maintain, 20 databases and 100 microservices, such a thing like Dependencies could be an interesting idea. But usually, in my world, the applications, even complex applications, are actually simpler than assumed. Usually, you have one database and multiple applications are sharing even one database. It's not like you get multiple databases. And sometimes you have one-to-one relation, but it's not like, you have multiple databases and multiple microservices and your application is crazy complex. And having that said, I wouldn't use two-phase commit. I wouldn't retries logic sometimes. Okay, with optimistic locking, we have sometimes do it. What you should do is to think about the business logic. And actually, next week at the AHEX and Munich Airport, we'll talk about transactions as well. And what I usually mention is how it can be solved. Just imagine I would like to book a hotel and a flight consistently. And what usually happens is you have to start with something. So if you book the flight and you cannot get the hotel and you would like to cancel the travel, it's over because you already committed a transaction. This is the problem. But instead of searching a technical solution, what you rather would do is like introduce cancellation policy. So what it means is I can just book the flight, then book the hotel. And if I cannot get the room, I can just cancel within, let's say, 24 hours my flight. And then, you know, it is very predictable behavior. And this is what you should do, is like undos or, undos with business context. And two-phase commit, retry logic, or Debezium is more like technical solution for a business problem. And I would rather try to understand the problem first and find an easy business solution than try, you know, to hit it with technology. Okay. Now, have you made any example attempts to configure your Dockland project with microprofile friendly writing of all outputs to standard out? This is actually a very good thing. This is what we do in some project. We just write system out print line because it's good enough. And Payara comes with, for instance, JSON appender, which is perfect. So there's, for instance, if you run Payara on OpenShift or in cloud, it already does that. So actually all my servers are writing to system out print line. And if you would like to write to system out print line, what you can do, you can make a logger injectable, because system out print line, what it actually just is, this is consumer of strings. And if it is consumer string, this is good enough. What we should measure a little bit, what about the performance? Because system out print line synchronizes the stream, so there is no parallel writing to the console. And bonus question: do logging frameworks have any future given increased containerization efforts? I don't think so. So I don't using logging framework for years. If I had to use, I always stick with Java util logging. All the other frameworks, I never got the idea why they are so important. Because if you think about this, only a really few applications have really good logs. Usually you get, you know, developers from different backgrounds and they're logging whatever they think is important. And there is no consistent strategy. So and what you will find in logs is usually trivial stuff, very similar quality to Javadoc. And in worst case, it does not help a lot. Okay, there are always exceptions from the rule, but this is what usually happen. So now we are almost done. Any questions here? No questions? No questions on Twitter? It's Friday, of course. Actually, good strategy to do the AirHacks on Friday, because there's not lots of questions, so we are very fast in the execution. And now, Christian Lenz asked me, or that would be great, so not that would be great, he asked me about, do you offer a bundle for all 3 online web courses? And it's technically impossible because every workshop is independent from the other. But what I did, the first 10 buyers with the Java eStick promo code will get 25%. So now you have your bundle. So if you buy or rent the Web Standards Igniters Effective Web, you will get 25% off. I hope it's fair. Okay? The first 10 buyers. So Christian, if you are fast, just buy it and you have your bundle. I hope it's a good solution. So, happy holidays. Thank you. I think the next AirHacks TV episode is going to be in the middle of January, because at the beginning of January, everywhere are vacations. So I wouldn't even try. I would say so like around 15th of January. I will announce all the dates soon. And what I will also do, announce the web part of the frameworks also soon, because the next week we have the AirHacks Java AirHacks at Munich Airport, so the lightweight part, and then I will announce the web stuff as well. There's not too much room on the workshops page. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.